Thank you, Inessa. Choose the better places. Thank you for joining us. One of the reasons why space is rapidly attracting new investment is because of its potential to enable new applications for several non-space industries: health, communication, fintech, agriculture, and even art. And we heard now about space diamonds or something. And as the space market continues to develop, leaders of traditional space companies need to realize that they are facing opportunities that the space industry alone cannot seize. So I'm really delighted to have you here, our experts. Elīna Gaile-Sarkane, Vice Rector of Riga Technical University, and Elīna Egle, co-founder and CEO of Federation of Security and Defense Industries of Latvia. Applause to Elīna. Dr. Gordon Campbell, Director, Science Application and Future Technologies Department of European Space Agency. Thank you for being with us. And Joe Cotti, Sales and Business Development Manager of Airbus Defense and Space. So the first question, can you share, please, examples of successful projects where different industries work together to improve space exploration or enhance biotechnology, defense, or remote sensing?
Well,
Joe, please.
I have a very nice example for it, but first of all, thank you for having me. So, radar technology, it started as a curiosity. That wavelength was not utilized, and then defense came and took it and developed radar, which now they're using to detect airplanes and shoot down missiles. Then other scientists came and used radar technology to do Earth observation, synthetic aperture radar images, to penetrate through clouds and see in the night. After that, more scientists came, took that technology and are putting it into space missions and are sending these missions to explore Venus or other remote planets where the cloud coverage doesn't allow accurate space exploration.
Okay, thank you. Elīna, you want to add?
Yes, my answer will be probably a little bit more institutional, because I think that if we look for serious cooperation and relationships which started for space and defense, we probably should look back only 5 years ago when NATO decided that space will be the next fifth domain. So since then, we have both NATO Excellence Center in Toulouse, and we have a lot of common acquisition projects being searched for, where alliance can work together. And industry as such has been engaged quite actively working in NATO Industry Advisory Group, where we have been working both on study groups about interaction between military and commercial satellite technology networks, and this agenda is evolving, and industry is having an opportunity to offer their future technologies to the NATO mainly ACT command to go forward.
Thank you. And how about academia?
Yes, in academia, from academia standpoint, I would say that we are representing in the space industry creation of new talents. And for that, I would say that in last 10 years, maybe even more, but basically in 10 years, we do see that there is a huge connection between business, research, space industry, and academia. And it grows let's say, exponentially, and universities become more and more involved in research, in development new talents, and not only at university level, but also it goes to school children. And this is very important. And here in Latvia also we can mention different projects what we have started already. But one good example is Cēsis district, where new talents work on rockets to school children and even in kindergarten they work with rockets to explore the space. So creating new talents in cross-disciplinary is very important.
And what happens in European Space Agency? Are you cooperating with different industries, and how?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the first point I would emphasize is a lot of the space capabilities like telecoms, Earth observation, navigation, they're useful because they're integrated with other industrial capabilities. By themselves, standalone, they're not that impactful. They need to be, the integration with other industry sectors is absolutely fundamental. And that can just be the space capabilities feeding into how the industry is doing its business. It can be spin-off capabilities just from looking at things from a different perspective. So, for example, we had a scientific mission to measure the Earth's gravity field called GOES or GOCHI, depending on which part of Europe you're from. It had a set of very sensitive accelerometers for measuring the change in the gravity field. That accelerometer technology is now fundamental in terms of a lot of the automatic vehicle control systems. The more sensitive your accelerometer, the better your control system, your automated control system can be. So it's enabling a lot of that sort of capability. Another element, another different space development I would highlight is we have an activity called Melissa, which is looking at developing a set of compartmentalized microbiological biochemical systems for waste reprocessing, primarily for supporting human spaceflight. So how do we get rid of waste products? How do we remove carbon dioxide, etc.? Not just to give clean products, but also to generate electric power. That type of technology is now, we're now transferring that into urban areas as part of the greening of cities. How do we use less energy and have more recycling inside actual apartments? So we're enabling being a fundamental element in terms of the green transition as well. So there's a lot of different capabilities that can spin off from space or can be jointly developed with other sectors that benefit everybody. And space, like I say, space by itself is probably not that. You're missing a major impact unless we're connecting it to other areas.
So there can something spin off from space, as I understand, and how do these advancements in space technology help vice versa to industries like biotech, defense?
Do you want me to go?
Maybe you.
Yeah, so we have a very innovative culture in a lot of the space industry. We're looking, there's a big investment even in the private sector. It's big investments, so we're looking to get the most out of whatever is flying in space. So we're always looking at new things we can try and do. There's some new radar capabilities coming along to build on what Joe was saying. Using radar in a different way, we can actually pick up the vibrations of surface targets, not just their movement. And that lets us infer a lot about the targets we're looking at. For example, for vessels, it means we can infer what their sonar signature would be, so we can map sonar signatures to vessels for maritime security. So that's just a new capability that somebody thought, let's try that and see if it works. And now we're really looking at how that can be transferred into, I think, pre-operational capabilities at this time. There's a number of examples like that.
If I may, then probably when the hard offensive on Ukraine started, I think that was probably the moment when space-related defense issues came quite visible. And I would say that also in civilian protection or in security area, these technologies has been really on high demand. And we can talk about missile detection, about the targeting, and of course we see evolving activities of Russia and China in this domain. So cybersecurity for space, for communication, these are also some areas where we as NATO should be focusing much more. And I think so it's It's not just defense related, it's really civil protection. It's also rural development. We see also a lot of activities engaging both space, defense, and climate domain, because climate is changing. Armies are having completely new duties right now, so they are engaged in different operations to save the people and also become themselves much more environmentally friendly. So there are a lot of activities, and of course all the data what we can get from space this is very useful.
So we see that it's a crucial cooperation between space and defense. And how about other things like natural disasters, climate change? Maybe you have some examples from Airbus.
Actually, I wanted to touch on security, but another type of security, food security. Ultimately, the population of the Earth is growing. We have one Earth, so we need to develop better methodologies for agriculture. One thing that we need for sure is to better understand what is the status of the crops and how to monitor them. For that, newer and better satellite missions are being launched with better spectral wavelengths, better resolution. Those, in turn, need to be, of course, utilized by the scientific community to identify better ways to exploit this data. But ultimately, also, you need the users or the industry to acknowledge these types of new methodology and incorporate them into the wide stream approach for agriculture.
Yes,
if I may add here, so then I do see that we have like a two-way of communication and usage of everything that we have. So at the moment we have a lot of data which is downstreamed from satellites, and we can use it for different purposes, actually brilliantly. We can use them to analyze weather conditions, to monitor everything. So we can even use those for economical purposes, for defense. So this is just a question of how we are able to process this data, monitor that data, and how to use that. And then, of course, there is technologies which are created to upstream. For example, let's say composite materials, different type of electronics, what is in the spaceships and satellites. And also those materials are very valuable for us because we can let's say, work for the space industry, but those materials are very important for medicine, for health, for biotechnologies. So we can, in reality, we are benefiting twice or triple from working with space technologies here on the Earth.
Is there any sense of competition, or there is a new trend calling co-opetition, named by Dina Rimera book? What do you think? There is competition between different sectors for space, or there could be co-opetition?
Well, in my opinion, and then Gordon maybe will complement his Isa, yes, there is competition, and competition is good. Competition is always good in every aspect in life because competition ultimately pushes us to be better, to excel, to endeavor into new methodology, and to get the better of what we are doing. So, of course, there is competition, and we at Airbus at least welcome it. Our partners welcome it too. And then, of course, when there is a big endeavor to be taken, we find a way to collaborate because ultimately it's for the good of humanity. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think that for us in defense and security industries, the good roadmap is the agreement which is made in 2009 by European Space Agency and European Defense Agency, setting the agenda on capabilities which are necessary. And in the European Defense Agency formats, industry has an opportunity to join the CAPTEX to analyze those space gaps, what we are having at European level. And I think that if we are looking a little bit above our European cooperation, I would say that those investments which we are having in defense and space, we are strong only as we are together all in NATO. because if we will look all those investments which has been invested in our adversary countries, we will see that unfortunately we are lagging behind. So therefore, the only way how we can succeed is by cooperation. And looking at the approach which European defense industry and space Directorate is using, implementing European Defense Fund, new schemes on innovations like UDIS. They are also encouraging companies joining together, and currently Latvians are participating in 11 consortiums ongoing. And if you look in general, for instance, last year there were 2 large space-related projects awarded. One was 25 million euros and another one was 100 million of euros. So for SMEs, for smaller size companies, it's impossible to approach such kind of scaled projects. So we really need to work together, and it's really very good that primes like Airbus and other European flagship companies are engaging with other smaller companies in Europe and also with universities, so that we can work on those projects together. Otherwise, I really don't see how we can safeguard space area.
Yes, Gordon.
I mean, I think a combination of both is the only way forward. I mean, as Joe was saying, competition is the only way of pushing us to get better. But there's certain situations where cooperation is the only way forward. So, for example, a market-based cooperation example would be there was a technique developed called radar interferometry. It's very good for geotechnical engineering. It wasn't an accepted methodology for the geotechnical engineers. So to get that as an accepted methodology, we needed all the companies to collaborate, and then they can compete once the capability is an accepted way of working in a particular industry sector. But until no individual company is going to do that by themselves for the benefit of their competitors. So another example that we're just starting now is linked to the green transition agenda. I mean, there's so many elements in there, and so much uncertainty that we're going to have to effectively manage. Right now, how we actually provide the sort of analytics and predictive analytics that is the European industry sectors, like the heavy carbon sectors like steel, aluminium, chemical production. How do these sectors transition from where we are now into a carbon neutral structure in 2050? Taking into account things like climate change impact as well. If you're in the steel industry and you're trying to move heavy materials around Central Europe, I mean, right now that's done on rivers. If these rivers are dry for 3 months of a year, how do the supply chains work? How are you going to even think about that? The only way you can really think about that is to have the amount of data we have coming from space, driving next generation environmental models and supply chain models, etc., and putting these things together. And just saying right now, okay, who's got the best solution, probably won't get us the optimal way forward in the short term. We need to have a collaboration to start with. And then once we've got the understanding of how all this is going to work, at that point the competition can set in, and we'll look for who's the best and who's the way of taking us forward.
Thank you.
If I may, a little bit going to this subject, I just would like to describe, for instance, one bilateral project, because for us, as for defense industry, we are always like pushing forward. We want to understand what's necessary for the armed forces, and we have been a little bit pushing on climate activities, because we saw the NATO climate action plan. So we were asking our armed forces, so what should we do? What's necessary from industry? And they were quite slow in this until we got on board the Canadian Armed Forces, and they were showing what's happening due to the climate, and how these airfields are looking now under the water, and how the whole infrastructure decision-making has been changed due to the climate change. So that brings this understanding how this knowledge is necessary.
Great. Yes.
Yeah, and ending up with competition and cooperation, I 100% agree with everything that was said, because from academia standpoint, of course, we are competing. University competes, but at the same time, we should cooperate because only with open data, open science, open innovation, we can succeed. For example, Riga Technical University works very much with the hydrogen as a fuel for let's say, also for airplanes and everything. And then there are several methods how we can produce hydrogen and how we can store it and use for fueling. And if there is no data exchange, we will not succeed. So this is really interesting to see that in Australia and in Europe, there's the same developments, but still we should work together just to quicker get to the result. Because separately we may compete, but as soon as we cooperate, exchange with data, exchange with research results, exchange with success and failures, so immediately the results will be faster.
Thank you. As we are close to the end of our panel, I would like to ask you, maybe you can share some motivational sentence for others to join the space industry. Just 1, 2 sentences, please. Why you are in this industry, maybe. What was your motivation? Maybe it's going to motivate others.
Well, that's actually a nice question. And I had a chat with a colleague just a couple of hours ago, and I'm going to tell the audience what I tell the colleague. Space is cool. Space is cool, guys. I mean, growing up, most of you are young as me, younger, maybe a bit more experienced, but nevertheless, you grow up watching Star Wars and Star Trek, and space is awesome. Everything we do in space, technologies, trickle down to everyday's life. So if you ask a kid, what do you want to do when you grow up, half of them say, I want to be an astronaut, and other half, they want to be Captain Picard or go to the moon. So for me, it's an awesome industry. It's cool technology. It's a dream come true. So yeah, that's why I'm in it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in my case, of course, the main driver is to support defense forces of Latvia to make our country safe. That's my internal driver. And being out of the comfort zone, that's probably my second driver. But it's interesting that yesterday I was walking in Riga, and I was passing by the previous US embassy here in Riga, close by Washington Square. And on that building there was a small quote of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who was visiting there in 1939 as Harvard student. And it was written that Latvians always look upwards. And this was something what really kept me going for these 2 days here. And I think in probably more rational terms, I think this is a momentum, at least what I see. Next decade, the defense and space will be at the core of investment. So there will be both private investment, also institutional investment coming, and look at these days. We have also these days here NATO Innovation Fund people. We have NATO Diāna people. We have European Defence Fund. A lot of commonly funded initiatives. So I would not scare you with billions and billions and billions, but that's true. So it's very important to come together, to learn what's necessary, and unite efforts with universities, with startups, and also with more mature companies in the area. So this is our time. So there probably wouldn't be other.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Gordon, Elīna?
As Joe said, I mean, it's cool, and it's cool to sort of be involved in it. I think it's one of the easiest domains I've found where you can, I mean, every day you can be pushing the boundary of what's possible just in your everyday work. I mean, it's a very lucky situation we're in. We're not just status quo. Everything we're doing is always looking to break barriers and push boundaries. And then, I mean, and there's other stuff that you take for granted until you think about it one day. I remember, like, the office I used to have was just down the corridor from the lady who was head of PR. And one of the Italian astronauts was on the space station trying to get hold of her. And he phoned me on the phone in the office. And he said, okay, I'm calling you from the space station. Yeah. No, I am. I'm in the space station. Can you get Frank over? I mean, like, the space station, they phone us up on a normal phone. That's where we are in space now. And like, you go home and think, yeah, that's cool.
Thanks. Yes, Elīna.
Yes, I would say that space is a dream of all mankind. Everyone dreams when they look at stars, what is above the stars. And since first step on the moon, technologies has been developed so well that this helps to boost development of science, development of all industries, and well-being of ourselves. So it means that it should be explored more and more, and we should benefit from this space exploring.
Thank you. And before we end, I like to emphasize one crucial point. We must ensure that wealth of space is not monopolized by a few, but used for the benefit of all. Space is a vast frontier for cooperation and exploration. By working together, we can harness its potential to create a better future for everyone. And my sincere gratitude to our panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diāna.